Hi, I'm Kate with The Productive Teacher, and today we are going to make words in the add word family. All one-syllable words have an onset, those are the letters that come before the vowel in the word, and a rime, that's the vowel and all the words that follow it in a word. You can see the add word family on the right side here, all have rhymes that end add. The onsets can be all different letter combinations that are on the left side of the screen. As I show you the words, I am going to read them. You are welcome to pause the video and read the words on your own. Then I'm going to say if it's a real word or not a real word. At the end, we'll look at a list of all the real words in the add word family. Bad. Bad is a word. Cad. Cad is a word. It's not a word that you hear a lot, but it is a real word. Dad. Dad is a word. Fad. Fad is a word. Gad. Gad is not a word. Had. Had is a word. Jad. Jad is not a word. Cad. Now again, we've had this with the ab word family. The K makes the K sound, but not usually before the letter A. So this cad is not a word. Lad. Lad is a word. Mad. Mad is a word. Nad. Nad is not a word. Pad. Pad is a word. Rad. Rad is a word. Sad. Sad is a word. Tad. Tad is a word. Vad. Vad is not a word. Wad. Wad is not a word. Yad. Yad is not a word. Zad. Zad is not a word. Chad. Chad is not a word, but it is a name, so I gave it a green check mark for word and I capitalized the C. Shad. Shad is not a word. Fad. Fad is not a word when the F sound is spelled PH. Thad. That is another one that's not a word but could be a name, so I capitalized the T and called it a word. Quad. Quad is not a word. Now, this is how we spell the word quad. So quad is a word, but because we're looking at the add family, I called it not a word. Quad is not a word. Quad is. This happens because the letter A makes the ah sound after the letters QU. Wad. Wad is not a word. Blad. Blad is not a word. Brad. Brad is not a word, but it is a name, so I capitalized the B and gave it a green check mark for word. Clad. Clad is a word. It's an uncommon word, but it is a word. Crad. Crad is not a word. Drad. Drad is not a word. Flad. Flad is not a word. Frad. Frad is not a word. Glad. Glad is a word. Grad. Grad is a word. Plaid. Plaid spelled this way is not a word. Prad. Prad is not a word. Slad. Slad is not a word. Smad. Smad is not a word. Spad. Spad is not a word. Stad. Stad is not a word. Trad. Trad is not a word. Scrad. Scrad is not a word. Shrad. Shrad is not a word. Splad. Splad is not a word. Squad. Squad is not a word. Notice here we have the QU again, so the A would make the ah sound. Squad is a word, but because we are in the add family, it is not counted as a word. Strad. Strad is not a word. Thrad. Thrad is not a word. Now let's look at all the words we made. Here's a list of all the words we made in the add family. Awesome job. Check out more reading videos on our channel.